Okay, so welcome to this new episode of the Panel Fit monthly chat. Today we are here with Liesbeth Hermans, who is a Chief Marketing Officer at Fourcast, a Google Cloud Premier partner, active in all Europe and headquartered in Brussels, Belgium. Fourcast specializes in implementing Google Cloud technologies at companies. Their services go from transforming the digital space to modernizing IT infrastructure while moving data to the cloud, to building data lakes and warehouses, and applying artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies. So welcome, Liesbeth.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, let's start with a general question about Fourcast. Could you tell us a bit more about the company and what is your role in it?
Yes, thank you, Federico, and thanks again for inviting me. Actually, Fourcast is, as you said, a Google Cloud Premier partner. We're active all over Europe, headquartered in Brussels, Belgium, but also with offices in London and Vienna, sales offices. And actually, our mission at Fourcast is to build cultures of innovation at companies by transforming the way they work and by elevating their customers' experiences. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by implementing the Google Cloud technology, Google Cloud solutions, and AI and machine learning technologies by Google. Actually, more in detail, we try to shape the digital workplace, so the workplace of tomorrow at companies by introducing solutions like G Suite, for example, the collaboration Office Suite by Google, which includes solutions like Gmail, Google Drive, Docs and Sheets, which allow for real-time collaboration between employees, and teleworking, which is of course relevant right now, but it's always in the digital workplace relevant to be able to connect with colleagues, teams, and whole organizations from a distance. And then, so that's one big part of what we do. Other big part is actually the infrastructure, more IT infrastructure side, where we move entire infrastructures, that data, so on-premise data centers, for example, to the public cloud, to Google Cloud. And once companies have their data, their infrastructure in Google Cloud, we can really start to innovate with Google's AI and machine learning technologies. And indeed, as you mentioned in the introduction, we can, for example, build data lakes, data warehouses, and go, for example, to more personalized marketing efforts and customer experiences. My role at Fourcast is indeed a CMO role, so I manage all marketing activities for Fourcast. And maybe good to mention as well is some of our customers that we have is, for example, the Royal Belgian Football Association. We have Arvesta, major agricultural player in Belgium. We have Toyota Motor Europe, Decathlon, Carrefour, Louis Delhaize are some of our bigger customers.
Okay, thank you for this overview. And since our project is mainly focused on data protection and cybersecurity issues, I would like to focus on maybe on the cybersecurity side of your company's duties. So next question would be what about the cybersecurity threats that Fourcast has to face when providing Google Cloud services?
Yeah, indeed. Well, let me first say that it's a super hot topic as well I think for all companies, and so also for our customers. And security is really, for our partner Google Cloud and for us, really a top priority. So some of the major challenges we see in the cybersecurity areas is, for example, data loss prevention. So the risk that companies have to lose their companies or customer data. We also see the backup and disaster recovery is also one of the challenges. So for companies, how to be prepared in case of an emergency or a disaster happens, or it also comes down to data loss actually.
Or data breach.
Or data breach, yeah, indeed. So having a backup or disaster recovery strategy in place is something that we highly encourage with our customers, for example. We also have a challenge is for many companies of shadow IT. So with that, I mean, for example, within a company, employees that use tools that are not approved by the organization, and this is also actually a cybersecurity risk because these tools are not controlled by the company or by IT departments of the company. And then, of course, a major challenge or risks are cyber attacks like phishing, malware, ransomware. And we see that there's, of course, whoever follows the news sees that knows that there is an increase in this kind of attacks, and now more than ever with the coronavirus crisis, we see that organizations are full-time teleworking, and with an entire workforce working from home, that makes companies actually extra vulnerable for cyber attacks. So, for example, these hackers try to go through less secured Wi-Fi networks, home Wi-Fi networks that are less secure, or they try to make use of the coronavirus hunger for news of people to send more phishing emails, and those are, I think, the major cybersecurity challenges that our customers face as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and this anticipates a bit the topic of coronavirus, which I would have asked you about later. But yeah, and you mentioned before some of your clients. I will be talking about coronavirus. I will be interested in knowing if you also have like public hospitals or health structures among your clients.
We also, maybe a good side note that I cannot mention all our customers publicly, so I will be a bit careful with that. But for the moment, we don't have any big hospitals, if I'm right, among our customers, but we do have some care organizations. Like, for example, in UK, the Good Care Group, and there we, for example, they are using G Suite as their collaboration tools because they have a lot of employees that are on the move giving care, and so they can collaborate in real time with each other. But to be honest, I'm not really up to date with the situation at their at these customers for the moment. So there I don't have extra info.
Okay. Just curiosity, since we were on the current news.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
So, you introduced a bit the next question, but let's see a bit more. What cybersecurity measures does your firm adopt in order to protect your clients' data?
Yes. So I mentioned these phishing emails and malware, ransomware. So these cybersecurity threats, for example, with our customers that are using G Suite as a collaboration tool, we see that Google protects them very much against this kind of emails. For example, G Suite blocks 99.9% of all spam mails every day, and then they use even another machine learning tool for that 1 milli% also to block that spam. So that means that customers are a bit less vulnerable for that already. So that's just to go a bit deeper in that example. But when we zoom out, actually we, as a Google Cloud partner, we rely very much on the Google Cloud security measures. And as I said, for them, security is a top priority. We see also that actually we can use security, security is a main differentiator. And we see that a lot of organizations these days are looking to move their data to the public cloud for security. Actually, because they realize that cloud providers like Google, but also other providers, can just invest more in people and processes to deliver the most secure infrastructure. And according, seeing that, there are 3 areas where Google Cloud is leading in that security area. First one is their infrastructure. So actually, when moving to Google Cloud, our customers take advantage of a really secure by design infrastructure that Google has, and where they invest millions in their own data centers, for example. They are built with custom designed servers, and they heavily invest in security engineers. They have over 500, I think, really specialized top security engineers. So as a smaller organization, you cannot make that kind of investments of, for example, as well, spreading data centers across the globe geographically. So when something happens in one data center, another data center comes in. Also, data in Google Cloud is encrypted at various levels. So when the data is in transit, for example, between Google and the customer, or in between data centers, or even when the data is at rest, as we say in the cloud, the data is at all times encrypted. However, there's also a shared responsibility there, and I think I can come back to this a few times. But so Google Cloud will provide security, but then there's always also a responsibility of the customer, so of our customer, to configure, for example, virtual servers in the cloud correctly. And if they're not configured correctly, they might be more vulnerable to an attack. It's a bit like keeping the doors of your house locked, even though you know that police is patrolling the neighborhood, I would say, in a comparison. And as a Google Cloud partner, we give this advice to our customers as well on how they can protect their specific own instances. So that's for infrastructure. But then the different products and solutions of Google Cloud also have a lot of security functionalities, I would say, or features and capabilities. Maybe I can give a few examples of this product security. For example, in G Suite, so the collaboration suite of Google, there organizations can implement two-step verification, so they reduce the risk of unauthorized access in their data, their company's data. You also have suspicious login monitoring, for example. You have data loss prevention capabilities. And same for Google Cloud platform and for the infrastructure side, where you also have two-step verification, identity and access management, and even a whole security command center where customers can view and monitor an inventory of their cloud assets. They can scan their storage systems for sensitive data, detect common web vulnerabilities, and so on. And then a third point where Google is strong in security is in the transparency and privacy, on the topic of transparency and privacy. So our customers and Google Cloud customers control at all times how their data is used and shared. So Google shares details about their operations and what's happening with the data, and it's also very clear on one point, because sometimes there are some misconceptions about this, but you are the owner of your own data and not Google. So the data that customers of Google Cloud put in the Google systems and in the cloud is absolutely not used by Google for any other purposes. So not for advertisement, or they don't sell it to third parties. And you, as a customer, you can even monitor at all times who accesses your data, for example, for support, if that's needed for support reasons. I think those are the three main points.
Yeah, it's very layered approach to security, I would say.
Yeah, indeed.
And the short question, you mentioned the customers on this chain of value, let's say. I would say that sometimes maybe the customer is the most threatening virus. So do you invest also in like training customers on how to implement such cybersecurity tools and measures?
Yes, indeed. So basically, well, that's the added value as well of a Google Cloud partner, right? Because and that's also why Google is pushing their customers in general to work with a partner like ourselves, because we can really sit down with the customer and assess their security, their needs, but also their security needs. So that's one of the first steps as well that we do in the trajectory of, for example, moving the infrastructure of an organization to Google Cloud. One of the main things that we do there is certainly making a security assessment and really act as a trusted advisor for in which security measures they can take, and really put together a plan with them for to enhance their security and make sure everything is configured in the right way and in the most optimal way in terms of security. Okay.
Let's talk about a bit more about the legal framework in Europe about data protection. I would ask you if the GDPR and the wider European legal framework somehow had an impact on the implementation of your services.
Yes, so I think GDPR had an impact on all of us, right? And so definitely also on us and on the way that Google Cloud works. I would say not, because they have also always put data security on a high stand. I would say they always gave a priority to that, but of course also Google adapted itself when the GDPR came into place to make sure that customers are in order, are
compliant.
Are compliant indeed with GDPR. So Google is taking quite a customer-centric approach on protection, control, and compliance. And what they really want to do as well is be a facilitator in the GDPR journey. So, for example, they provide the necessary documentation so that organizations can assess for themselves that the Google Cloud solutions are GDPR compliant, and that they can be, as an organization, also compliant with the GDPR. The security layers that we talked about before are certainly an important one to be compliant with GDPR. But also the fact, what I said about privacy and data control. So Google makes sure that the customers own their data and that they can control how it is used. And this is, of course, a very important thing when you think about GDPR. Google also has really robust internal auditing controls, for example. So customers can really be sure that their data is protected. And then you have there as well the shared responsibility model that I already talked about. So there are responsibilities for the customer and there are responsibilities for Google. And the customers will typically be or act as the data controller, right, for the personal content that they provide to Google through the services, the Google Cloud services. And then Google would be typically the data processor. And as the data processor, Google will process the personal data on behalf of the controller, which is then the customer, the G Suite or Google Cloud customer. For example, Google has a contract, and it adapted their contracts to comply with GDPR concerning the processing of customer personal data, and also other GDPR requirements like the deletion of data or the exporting of data. Google adapted their contracts and their processes so that customers can meet this kind of requirements, basically.
Okay, so a lot of effort, I will say, to be compliant.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, of course, Google also has to do this, right? Because otherwise they couldn't have any European customers. So.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, I had one last question was about this coronavirus disease, and if you have, since a lot of people is working from home like us in these days, if you have particular advices from your company about their security of their networks and their data in these times, just, I don't know, some practical advice maybe. What we advise to our customers is to adhere a bit to the best practices and principles of BeyondCorp. That's a zero trust security model that's also adopted by Google. And actually, this shifts the access controls from a network perimeter to individual users and devices. So without the need for the need and the complexity of a traditional VPN. But of course, I'm also aware that a lot of organizations are still working with that kind of traditional VPN. So I would say take a hard look at your security strategy, at your security plan, making sure that you. This is really a good time for IT departments, for example, to assess their security vulnerabilities, because, as I said before, organizations are extra vulnerable these times for cyber attacks. So I think it comes down to
really searching where your vulnerabilities are, and trying to fix that, maybe with a trusted partner that organizations already have. And otherwise, we're happy to be that partner, of course. So, yes.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Liesbeth, for your time.
You're welcome.
Yeah, as always, this chat will be uploaded as a podcast on the main platform and on YouTube as a video. I don't see any questions from the audience or raised hands, so I guess we can say goodbye. And
Okay.
once more, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.